The move happened in a blur of cardboard boxes and heavy lifting. They found a small apartment overlooking the harbor, where the salt air drifted through open windows. Elias carried the first stack of crates into the living room, his boots thudding against the hardwood floor. Sarah followed, her arms full of books that had traveled with her through every apartment she had ever known. They worked in tandem, clearing space on the shelves and pushing the sofa against the far wall. The room felt cavernous at first, echoing with every movement, but slowly, it began to hold their weight. They unpacked the kitchenware, stacking plates and mugs in the cupboards until the shelves were crowded. Elias lined up his collection of journals on the desk, while Sarah arranged her favorite records near the turntable. They moved through the rooms with a quiet, focused energy, testing the layout of their new life. By the time the sun began to dip below the harbor horizon, the apartment was no longer a collection of empty rooms. It was a space defined by their presence. They had built a foundation. The first few weeks settled into a rhythm that felt like a long-held breath finally released. Mornings began with the sound of the kettle whistling. Elias would sit at the small wooden table, his pen moving across a notepad, while Sarah stood by the window watching the harbor fog roll in. They moved around each other with an effortless coordination, anticipating the path the other would take through the narrow kitchen. There was no need for explanations or apologies. When Elias reached for the sugar, Sarah had already slid the bowl toward him. When Sarah hummed a melody while folding laundry, Elias tapped his fingers on the desk in perfect time. They spent their evenings in the living room, surrounded by stacks of books and the low hum of the city outside. Often they read in silence, the only sound the turning of pages and the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. It was a rare, quiet comfort. For the first time in years, the weight of their separate histories seemed to lose its sharp edges, replaced by the steady, grounding presence. The seamless rhythm of the first few weeks began to fray at the edges. It started with the small things, the way Elias left his notebooks spread across the dining table, blocking the space Sarah needed for her own projects. She would move them to the side, a sharp, quick motion that caught his attention. He would watch her, his jaw tightening, before returning to his work without a word. Then there was the matter of the kitchen. Elias kept the counters wiped clean, a sterile, empty surface that felt cold to Sarah. She preferred to leave her tea tin and a stack of mail near the toaster, a habit that Elias corrected by silently sliding her items back to the corner each morning. The air in the apartment grew heavy with these unspoken adjustments. They began to navigate the rooms with more caution, watching where they stepped and how they placed their belongings. A misplaced pen or a chair left pulled out from the table became a source of quiet, mounting irritation. The friction moved beyond the placement of objects and into the very hours they occupied. Elias claimed the dawn. He rose before the sun, moving through the apartment in a may-have deliberate, muted fashion, his world defined by the stillness of early light. He needed the silence to anchor his thoughts, a fragile quiet that he protected with every soft footfall. But Sarah existed in the opposite spectrum. As the evening deepened, her energy surged. She would start her day when the city lights flickered to life, filling the apartment with the low, rhythmic pulse of music and the sharp clatter of her late-night work. The sound would bleed through the walls, vibrating against the floorboards while Elias tried to sleep. He would lie in the dark, staring at the ceiling, his hands clenched into fists as the bass hummed through the mattress. When he emerged to ask for quiet, he would find her standing in the kitchen, eyes bright and mind racing, completely unaware of the tension she had created. She needed the noise to feel alive, while he needed the silence to feel whole. The arguments began as sharp, sudden cracks in their composure.
If you made it this far, you already know the vibe. Hit that like button, subscribe for more, and don't miss what's coming next. New content, real stories, every week. See you in the next one.